The story of the United States is a remarkable one. From its humble beginnings as a collection of colonies, it has grown into a global superpower. We will explore the dreams of the Founding Fathers, the horrors of civil war, and the pursuit of equality and justice. Before starting, put the auto-generated YouTube subtitles in French or your mother tongue to get everything. And slow down or speed up the pace as needed. If you don't have time to watch it, just listen to this video as a podcast while doing something else. Now listen and learn English. This is more than just a recounting of dates and battles. It is an exploration of the American spirit. Join us now as we embark on this captivating journey through American history. From the first explorers to the colonists seeking a new life, the seeds of American identity were sown early. The colonial era laid the groundwork for the revolution to come. As European powers vied for control, settlements sprang up along the eastern seaboard. The American Revolution, a watershed moment, saw the birth of a new nation founded on liberty and self-determination. This audacious act of defiance would inspire generations and alter the course of human events. The birth of the United States was not without its challenges. The Constitution laid the foundation for a more perfect union. The Civil War tested the very ideals upon which the nation was founded. The abolition of slavery marked a turning point, a testament to the belief in equality and justice. The journey towards a more perfect union continued, driven by the promise of freedom and equality for all. As we move through the 20th century and into the 21st, we witness a nation grappling with its past while striving for a better future. From the battlefields of world wars to the civil rights movement, Americans have consistently fought for freedom. This journey through American history is a call to action for the present and future. By understanding our history, we gain a deeper understanding of today's challenges. Let us learn from the past and work together to build a brighter future for all Americans. The story of the United States begins with the arrival of explorers and settlers from across the Atlantic. Driven by adventure, riches, and religious freedom, these pioneers braved perilous journeys. Among the first to arrive were English settlers, establishing colonies like Jamestown and Plymouth. These early colonists faced immense challenges, including conflicts with Native American tribes. Through resilience and determination, these settlements laid the foundation for a nation yet to be born. As more Europeans arrived, a tapestry of colonies emerged along the Atlantic coastline. Each colony developed its own unique identity, shaped by geography, economy, and culture. In the north, religious groups established communities based on faith and self-governance. In the south, economic opportunity drove the establishment of plantations. Despite their differences, these colonies were bound by a common language and a growing sense of shared identity. From the outset, the colonists exhibited a strong desire for self-governance. Many colonies established their own legislative assemblies, providing valuable experience in self-government. The Enlightenment influenced thinkers and leaders who would later shape the revolution. British policies perceived as restrictive and unjust fueled growing resentment. The seeds of rebellion, sown in the soil of self-governance and individual liberty, were beginning to sprout. The arrival of European settlers had a profound impact on Native American populations. Centuries-old ways of life were disrupted as colonists encroached upon their lands. While some interactions were peaceful, many were characterized by conflict and violence. European expansion led to displacement, warfare, and the erosion of Native American cultures. The legacy of this period continues to shape the relationship between the U.S. government and Native American tribes today. Life in colonial America was diverse, from bustling port cities to rural farmlands. Daily life was arduous, particularly for those who toiled the land. Religion played a central role, providing comfort and a sense of community. Education was highly valued, particularly in the New England colonies. The seeds of a uniquely American spirit, valuing hard work, faith, and education, were taking root. The American Revolution was the culmination of decades of growing tension and discontent. A fundamental disagreement over the relationship between a colony and its mother country lay at the heart of the conflict. British policies perceived as oppressive and unjust further inflamed tensions. The Boston Tea Party demonstrated the colonists' willingness to take a stand against tyranny. the British government's punitive measures pushed the colonists closer to rebellion. As tensions escalated, colonial leaders convened the First Continental Congress in 1774. The Congress called for a boycott of British goods and began organizing militias. The first shots of the American Revolution were fired at Lexington and Concord in 1775. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress declared independence from Great Britain. The Declaration of Independence, penned by Thomas Jefferson, proclaimed that all men are created equal and endowed with certain unalienable rights. The American Revolution was a brutal and costly conflict. The early years of the war were marked by setbacks and defeats for the Continental Army. The tide began to turn in 1777 with the American victory at Saratoga. French military and financial assistance proved invaluable to the American cause. General Washington skillfully maneuvered his forces, exploiting British weaknesses. The final major battle of the American Revolution took place at Yorktown, Virginia in 1781. British General Cornwallis surrendered, effectively ending the war. The Treaty of Paris, signed in 1783, formally recognized American independence. The world watched as a group of colonies defied one of the most powerful empires and emerged victorious. The American victory demonstrated that a small nation, united by a common cause, could triumph against a seemingly invincible foe. The American Revolution was not merely a war for independence, it was a social and political revolution that fundamentally transformed the relationship between a government and its people. The ideals enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, endowed with certain unalienable rights including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, became cornerstones of the American identity. The newly independent nation faced the daunting task of building a government from scratch. The Articles of Confederation, adopted in 1777, proved inadequate, creating a weak central government that lacked the power to effectively address the challenges facing the young nation. In 1787, delegates from the states convened in Philadelphia to address these weaknesses. The result was the United States Constitution, a remarkable document that established a system of government based on the principles of separation of powers, checks and balances, and federalism. The Constitution, ratified in 1788, established a more perfect union, providing a framework for a government that balanced the need for national unity with the preservation of individual liberties. It established a system of government that has endured for over 2 centuries, albeit with amendments and interpretations that reflect the evolving values and priorities of the American people. With the triumphant echoes of revolution still reverberating across the land, the newly independent states faced the daunting task of forging a nation. The experiment in self-governance was fraught with challenges, as conflicting interests threatened to unravel the fragile unity. The Articles of Confederation, adopted in 1777, represented the first attempt to establish a governing framework. The newly independent states opted for a weak central government. It soon became apparent that the Articles suffered from fatal flaws. The central government, lacking the power to tax or regulate commerce, led to interstate disputes and a sense of national disunity. A more robust and effective form of government was needed. In the summer of 1787, delegates convened in Philadelphia to craft a stronger national government. This constitutional convention brought together brilliant minds like Washington, Madison, Hamilton, and Franklin. Meeting in secrecy, they engaged in passionate debates and delicate compromises. Their efforts resulted in the United States Constitution, a testament to their wisdom and spirit of compromise. The Constitution established a system of separation of powers and checks and balances. Balancing Act Federalists versus Anti-Federalists. The ratification of the Constitution was far from assured. A fierce debate erupted between Federalists and Anti-Federalists. At stake was the balance of power between the federal government and the states. Federalists, led by Hamilton, Madison, and Jay, argued for the Constitution. Anti-Federalists, led by Henry, Adams, and Mason, feared too much federal power. The Bill of Rights was crucial in securing ratification. With the ratification of the Constitution in 1788 and the adoption of the Bill of Rights in 1791, the United States embarked on its grand experiment in self-governance. The early years of the Republic were marked by both promise and uncertainty as the nation grappled with the challenges of establishing a new government. George Washington, revered as the hero of the Revolution, was unanimously elected as the first president, setting a precedent for leadership and statesmanship. Washington's presidency was marked by pragmatism and a commitment to a stable government. Under his leadership, the new government took shape, creating the federal court system and laying the foundation for a national economy. As the young nation stabilized and gained strength, a spirit of exploration and expansion took hold. Driven by a belief in their manifest destiny to control the continent, Americans pushed westward, seeking new opportunities and expanding the nation's borders from the Atlantic to the Pacific. This westward expansion, while fueled by dreams of opportunity and a belief in American exceptionalism, came at a high cost. Native American tribes who had called these lands home for centuries were displaced, their cultures and livelihoods disrupted as settlers encroached upon their territories. The forced removal of Native Americans from their ancestral lands, often through brutal and unjust means, remains a dark chapter in American history. The expansion of slavery into Western territories ignited fierce political debates and further exacerbated sectional tensions. The issue of slavery, a moral stain on the nation's conscience since its founding, would continue to fester, eventually leading to the tumultuous and bloody chapter of the Civil War. Yet, amidst the growing pains and moral compromises, the spirit of nation-building endured. The United States, through a combination of diplomacy, military might, and the sheer determination of its people, expanded its borders, established itself as a major power on the world stage, and grappled with the challenges of forging a more perfect union. The United States' rapid growth and westward expansion in the early 19th century brought to the forefront the contentious issue of slavery. This divisive institution, deeply entrenched in the Southern economy, contrasted with the increasingly industrialized North. Tensions escalated, sowing the seeds of conflict that would erupt into the Civil War. The Missouri Compromise of 1820 was an early attempt to resolve the slavery issue. It allowed Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a free state, maintaining the balance of power in Congress. However, this compromise merely postponed the inevitable conflict. The Compromise of 1850 introduced measures like the Fugitive Slave Act, intensifying Northern opposition to slavery. These events underscored the deepening national divide and set the stage for the Civil War. The Civil War officially began on April 12, 1861, when Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter in South Carolina. This marked the start of a devastating conflict that would last 4 years, claiming the lives of over 600,000 Americans and leaving the nation deeply scarred. Early in the war, the Confederacy achieved several significant victories, including the First Battle of Bull Run, which shattered any illusions of a swift conflict. However, the Union's superior industrial capacity, larger population, and more extensive railroad network gradually shifted the balance in their favor. The Battle of Antietam in September 1862 was a pivotal moment. It remains the bloodiest single day in American military history, with around 22,000 casualties. Although the battle ended in a tactical draw, it provided President Lincoln with the political momentum to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, transforming the war into a fight against slavery. The Battle of Gettysburg in July 1863 was another crucial turning point. It marked the furthest advance of Confederate forces into the North and ended in a significant Union victory. Gettysburg, coupled with the fall of Vicksburg, Mississippi, effectively split the Confederacy and marked the beginning of the end for the Southern cause. On January 1, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that all enslaved people in Confederate-held territory were to be set free. This historic document redefined the purpose of the Civil War, making the abolition of slavery a central goal alongside the preservation of the Union. The Emancipation Proclamation had profound implications. It allowed African Americans to enlist in the Union Army, bolstering its ranks and providing a moral boost to the Northern cause. Approximately 180,000 African American soldiers and sailors would serve by the war's end, playing a crucial role in the Union victory. The proclamation also had significant international repercussions. By framing the conflict as a fight against slavery, Lincoln garnered greater support for the Union cause abroad, particularly in Europe, where abolitionist sentiment was strong. This helped to prevent foreign powers such as Britain and France from recognizing or supporting the Confederacy. While the Emancipation Proclamation did not immediately free all enslaved people, as it applied only to Confederate-controlled areas, it was a critical step towards the eventual abolition of slavery. The Union triumphant, the end of the Civil War. The final phase of the Civil War saw the Union forces, now under the command of General Ulysses S. Grant, implementing a strategy of total war to cripple the Confederacy's ability to sustain its war effort. This approach included General William Tecumseh Sherman's infamous March to the Sea, a devastating campaign of destruction through Georgia that aimed to break the South's will to fight. By early 1865, the Confederate forces were significantly weakened, suffering from shortages of men, supplies, and morale. The Union's relentless campaigns had decimated the Southern economy and infrastructure, leaving the Confederacy on the brink of collapse. On April 9, 1865, General Robert E. Lee, commander of the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia, surrendered to General Grant at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. This surrender effectively marked the end of the Civil War, although sporadic fighting continued for several weeks as the news spread to other Confederate forces. The conclusion of the Civil War was met with a mixture of relief and sorrow. The war had preserved the Union and ended the institution of slavery, but the human and material cost was staggering. The Era of Reconstruction. Spanning from 1865 to 1877, the Reconstruction era aimed to rebuild the South and secure civil rights for freedmen. President Lincoln's assassination led to Andrew Johnson's lenient approach, angering radical Republicans. Congressional Reconstruction enforced the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the Reconstruction Acts. The 15th Amendment in 1870 aimed to protect African American voting rights. Despite efforts, groups like the Ku Klux Klan resisted, using violence to undermine progress. By 1877, federal troops withdrew, leading to Jim Crow laws and segregation. As the 20th century dawned, the United States, still bearing the scars of Civil War, found itself on the cusp of a new era. A wave of industrialization swept across the nation, transforming the landscape, fueling economic growth, and drawing millions of immigrants seeking a better life. Factories churned out goods at an unprecedented pace, and technological innovations promised to reshape daily life. Progressive reformers fought for workers' rights, women's suffrage, and government regulation of big business. Leaders like Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson embraced progressive ideals, pushing for antitrust legislation and conservation efforts. Yet amidst this era of progress, shadows lingered. Racial discrimination remained deeply entrenched, and labor unrest often met with brutal repression. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria in Sarajevo in 1914 ignited a chain of events that plunged Europe, and eventually the world, into the abyss of World War I. The United States, initially determined to remain neutral in this distant conflict, found itself drawn into the maelstrom in 1917 after repeated German provocations, including the sinking of the Lusitania, a British passenger liner carrying American citizens. President Woodrow Wilson, framing American involvement as a crusade to make the world safe for democracy, rallied the nation to war. American troops, dubbed doughboys, poured into Europe, tipping the balance of power in favor of the Allied forces. The war, however, proved to be a brutal and costly affair with millions of casualties on all sides. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war but failed to establish a lasting peace. Germany, burdened with crippling war reparations and blamed for the conflict, seethed with resentment, setting the stage for future conflicts. The United States, deeply disillusioned by the war and wary of entangling alliances, retreated into a period of isolationism, even as the seeds of another global conflict were being sown. The Roaring Twenties, a decade of economic prosperity, social change, and cultural innovation, came to an abrupt and devastating end with the stock market crash of 1929. The crash, a culmination of overspeculation, reckless lending practices, and a decline in agricultural prices, triggered the Great Depression, the worst economic crisis in American history. Unemployment soared, banks failed, businesses shuttered, and breadlines stretched for blocks as millions of Americans lost their jobs, homes, and savings. President Herbert Hoover, initially slow to respond to the crisis, faced withering criticism for his perceived inaction. The Depression tested the very fabric of American society, shaking confidence in the capitalist system and fueling social unrest. In 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, promising a New Deal for the American people, swept into office. Roosevelt, a charismatic leader who projected optimism and confidence, implemented a series of bold and unprecedented government programs designed to provide relief, recovery, and reform. The New Deal, though not without its critics, helped to alleviate the suffering of millions, put people back to work, and fundamentally reshaped the role of the federal government in American life. The decades following World War II witnessed the rise of the Civil Rights Movement, a transformative social and political movement that challenged centuries of racial segregation and discrimination in the United States. African Americans, emboldened by their service in the war and inspired by the leadership of figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Malcolm X, demanded an end to Jim Crow laws, equal access to education, housing, and employment, and the right to vote free from intimidation and violence. The movement gained momentum with a series of landmark events, including the Montgomery bus boycott, sparked by Rosa Parks' refusal to give up her seat to a white man, the desegregation of Little Rock Central High School, where 9 African American students faced down a hostile mob, and Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, delivered at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, which electrified the nation and galvanized support for civil rights. The civil rights movement, despite facing fierce resistance and often brutal violence, achieved significant victories, leading to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, and guaranteed the right to vote for all citizens regardless of race. A nation transformed post-war boom and Cold War anxieties. The aftermath of World War II ushered in an era of unprecedented economic prosperity and technological advancement for the United States, even as the nation found itself locked in a global ideological struggle with the Soviet Union known as the Cold War. The Cold War, a clash of ideologies between the capitalist West and the communist East, dominated international relations for decades, shaping global alliances, fueling proxy wars, and casting a long shadow over American life. The dawn of the 21st century found the United States at a crossroads, grappling with the legacies of its past while confronting the challenges of a rapidly changing world. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 ended the Cold War, ushering in an era of globalization and technological advancement. The 1990s witnessed economic growth and a renewed sense of optimism. The internet transformed communication and commerce. Globalization created opportunities but also fueled anxieties about job displacement. Political polarization began to manifest, setting the stage for partisan gridlock. As the new millennium dawned, the United States found itself navigating uncharted waters. The early 21st century witnessed the full force of the digital revolution, a technological transformation as profound as the Industrial Revolution. The internet became an indispensable tool, connecting billions and altering how we live, work, and interact. Social media platforms created new avenues for interaction and activism while raising concerns about privacy and misinformation. Smartphones put the internet in our pockets, blurring the lines between the physical and digital worlds. The digital revolution has profoundly impacted the American economy, creating new industries and disrupting traditional business models. The early 21st century witnessed a marked increase in political polarization in the United States, a growing divide between liberals and conservatives on a range of issues. This polarization, fueled by partisan media and social media echo chambers, has made it difficult to find common ground and address the nation's challenges. The election of Barack Obama, the nation's first African-American president, was hailed as a watershed moment. However, Obama's presidency also witnessed a backlash, fueling racial tensions and partisan gridlock. Trump's presidency further exacerbated political divisions and tested American democracy. The global stage challenges and opportunities in an interconnected world. The United States navigated the turbulent waters of the early 21st century, facing new challenges and opportunities. The rise of China as an economic and military power presented both challenges and opportunities. Climate change emerged as one of the most pressing challenges, demanding global cooperation. The United States played a leading role in negotiating the Paris Agreement. The United States faces a multitude of challenges and opportunities in an interconnected world. As we conclude our journey through American history, from the first settlements to the digital age, we stand in awe of the spirit that has propelled this nation forward. From explorers who crossed uncharted seas to revolutionaries who fought for liberty and pioneers who tamed a continent, to civil rights activists demanding equality, the story of the United States is a testament to human aspiration and resilience. Constantly evolving and pushing boundaries from humble beginnings as colonies to a global superpower, its influence felt worldwide. This transformation is a testament to ingenuity and hard work, embracing innovation and overcoming adversity, shaping the world in their image. The United States has been a beacon of hope, a land of opportunity for all. Though the promise of America is sometimes elusive, it remains a powerful force, drawing immigrants from every corner of the globe, contributing to the nation's rich tapestry. As we reflect on the American journey, we are reminded that progress is rarely linear, setbacks and challenges are inevitable, and the pursuit of a more perfect union is ongoing. A relay race passed down from one generation to the next. The story of the United States is not a fairy tale, but a complex saga marked by achievements and missteps. It is a story that continues to unfold, its final chapters yet to be written. While the United States has much to celebrate in its history, it is also essential to acknowledge the darker chapters, the uncomfortable truths that continue to shape the present. The legacy of slavery and racial discrimination, the displacement and mistreatment of Native Americans, and the struggle for social and economic justice, these are enduring themes in the American story. The echoes of these past injustices reverberate in the present, manifested in persistent racial disparities in wealth, health, and education. The pursuit of a more perfect union is far from over. A more perfect union, embracing the future, forging a shared destiny. Despite the daunting challenges that lie ahead, there is reason for hope and optimism. The United States has a remarkable capacity for self-correction and emerging stronger. The key to unlocking this potential lies in embracing the nation's diversity. Its strength lies in drawing upon the talents and experiences of all its citizens. This diversity fuels creativity, resilience, and innovation. To build a more perfect union, the United States must confront its past honestly, acknowledging wrongs and working to repair the damage, ensuring all citizens have an equal opportunity to succeed, creating a more equitable society where everyone can thrive. The United States must reclaim its role as a global leader through diplomacy and cooperation. With its innovative spirit, the United States is uniquely positioned to lead the way. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video for another story. And before leaving, like this video to support my work and don't forget to subscribe. See you.